There is a bizarre and frankly dangerous game playing out right now at the very top of Iran's government. And it could decide the fate of millions of people. At stake, a very fragile peace or a really devastating war.
And it's kind of weird, but maybe the best way to understand this whole high-stakes international crisis is through a comedy from the 80s. You know the one, about the two guys pretending their dead boss is still alive. Because that right there brings us to the absolute central mystery of this entire conflict. It's the one question that diplomats and military leaders are desperately, and I mean desperately, trying to answer. Is Iran's new supreme leader even alive? Okay, let's dive into this, because the situation is just wild. It all centers on Iran's new supreme leader, a man named Mojtaba Khamenei. So here's the rundown. Khamenei, he takes over right after his father, the former supreme leader, was assassinated on the very first day of this war. But get this, he was in the exact same compound when it was hit by that bomb. And since that moment, poof, he's vanished. No public appearances, no speeches on TV, not even a radio message, nothing. The rumor mill is just spinning out of control. People are saying he lost a leg, that he has horrible facial injuries, or that he might actually be dead. So to really understand why this whole ghost leader mystery is so incredibly critical, we need to quickly rewind and look at how this whole conflict even started. Because, this stuff doesn't just happen in a vacuum. And this quote right here, it gets straight to the point. For a long time, the public stated position of the United States has been a hard and fast red line. Iran will not be allowed to get its hands on nuclear weapons. That's the bedrock policy that's brought us to this incredibly tense moment. So the most important thing to grasp here is that all this chaos at the top has basically ripped the curtain back on a deep, dangerous power struggle that's happening inside Iran as we speak. And right at the center of one side of this fight, you have the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Now, it's really important to understand, these guys aren't just a part of the army. They are a hugely powerful, ultra-radical force with their own political clout, their own money, and a very, very hardline agenda. And this is where you can really see that divide. On one side, you've got the hardliners, led by the head of the IRGC, Ahmad Vahidi. They're the ones behind this whole weekend at Bernie situation, insisting the supreme leader is just fine and that he totally supports their position of no peace deal with America. But on the other side, you have the pragmatists. We're talking about the president, the foreign minister, the people who actually want to sit down and negotiate. The problem is, Vahidi is supposedly physically blocking them from even seeing the supreme leader to get his official blessing for peace talks. Now, this internal power struggle isn't just staying behind closed doors, oh no. It is about to spill out onto the world stage at these emergency peace talks that are scheduled to happen in Pakistan. And the pressure here is just immense. I mean, look at this timeline. The talks are set for Tuesday. The ceasefire that's keeping the bombs from falling ends Wednesday night. And if there's no deal, the threat of renewed heavy bombing is just hanging there for Thursday. We are literally talking about a 48-hour window between diplomacy and all-out war. This puts the Iranian pragmatists in a truly impossible spot. Think about it. If they go to Pakistan without the official sign-off from the supreme leader, the IRGC can just paint them as traitors who are selling out the country. But if they don't show up, the ceasefire ends and the whole conflict could explode. It's a total catch-22. Okay, so with all this chaos, all this uncertainty, what's the U.S. going to do? Well, former White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer, a guy who really knows how the Trump administration thinks, he lays out a pretty plausible scenario. And his whole analysis really starts with this quote, which just perfectly captures the core problem for everybody. How can you possibly negotiate a lasting peace deal when you don't even know if the person you're talking to has the authority to make the deal stick? So Spicer basically predicts this little four-step dance. Number 1, the U.S. team will be there. They have to show they're trying for peace. 2, the Iranian pragmatists will probably show up too, mainly because they want to avoid getting bombed immediately. 3, that'll be just enough for President Trump to say, okay, we'll extend the ceasefire for now. But, and this is the big one, 4, we'll all walk away with zero real progress, right back where we started. So the real takeaway from this prediction is that even if the bombs don't start falling again this week, the fundamental problem isn't going anywhere. It really seems like the hardline IRGC is the one calling the shots, and their goal is not a peace deal. They are essentially holding the entire country's foreign policy, and maybe even the supreme leader himself, hostage.
And all of this leaves us with the most unsettling question you can imagine. When no one knows for sure who is actually in charge of a country, who gets to make that final, fateful decision between war and peace?